Good morning, you're watching Market Cafe with me, Shreyansi Singh and Vinny Motiwala. And over the next 1 hour, we'll take you through news and updates from within the country as well as across the globe, tell you which stocks you should keep on your radar and flag what the brokerages are saying as well. But let's get started then, Vinny. What is the international handover looking like to you?
Absolutely, you can see that Nifty implied already indicating a very positive start for the Indian market. So maybe one more record high for us as well, because S&P 500 as well as the Nasdaq both closed at record high levels. So very interesting, in terms of the move that came in from the US market was mainly because of Nvidia, because of the numbers that added $277 billion in terms of value. That is the most in its market history as well. Nvidia is a stock that has been doing well. There's a lot of interest that comes in for Nvidia. It's an AI company, AI focused company. Numbers for the December quarter were very, very strong. Improved guidance also, bumpers earnings, and obviously in terms of guidance improvement means the trajectory going forward is also quite positive. So yes, US markets really closed on a very positive note. As of now, when you're looking at the futures, that after the close saw a bit of a decline coming in terms of the US futures, but what a run up that we've already seen right in the US markets. So yes, given the Nvidia push, US markets surely closed on a high note as well. Whether you look at the Nasdaq, S&P 500 or Dow Jones, all of them have actually managed to close in the green. Dow Jones managed to gain more than 450 points, up 1.18%. S&P 500 closed more than 2% up, and Nasdaq too closed more than 3%, around 3% uptick that we saw in the Nasdaq as well. So yes, interesting move that came in from the US markets. While let's look at what the European markets did as well. They do close before the US markets, but nonetheless, European markets also saw very strong moves, very strong closing yesterday that came in. European benchmark, the stock 600 actually closed at a high level as well. So when you look at it, DAX, FTSE, CSE, all of them have managed to close with very strong gains. FTSE was the only one which gained 0.3% in trade, while other ones were obviously gaining more than 1% as well. Data points showing in terms of economic recovery, that's a positive sign coming there as well. So all in all, it was overall a good closing that and a handover that we're getting from the US markets as well. So yes, that's something interesting to watch out for today in trade, because surely a positive start is at least what is indicated today as of now for the Indian markets, and Nifty implied indicating more than a 1% uptick in terms of the start as well.
Absolutely, and when you look at oil prices also, there's a very interesting move coming in. So when you look at crude oil futures, of course, they're not doing all that much, just rising a little bit, and this is amid signs of a tightening global market. And the market is also taking note of the geopolitical outlook in the Middle East that remains uncertain as of now. Now, when you look at the WTI contract, that saw an uptick of about 0.9% thereabout and settled around that $78 a barrel mark. When you look at Brent as well, that added about 0.7%, settled around that $83 a barrel mark. And in the US, commercial crude stockpiles rose by 3.5 million barrels last week, while total inventory, including finished products, was largely flat, and this is according to the EIA or Energy Information Administration. And the US stockpiles have increased in recent weeks as the refinery utilization rate has dropped. Now, another thing that the market is of course taking note of, like I mentioned, is the geopolitical outlook in the Middle East that remains uncertain as the US works towards a ceasefire in Gaza while tensions escalate on the Israel-Lebanon border as well as in the Red Sea. So that's largely the handover coming in when you look at oil prices. But let's stay with oil and gas then. And the European subcontinent is looking at some relief after recent reports suggest easing supply issues by next winter. A warm second part of the heating season and forecast of relatively high temperatures in the coming months further favor the European economy. Now, increased diversification of supply has aided this, which made sure that the continent is not depending on Russian gas alone. As a result, bears could be targeting the lows near the €20 price level. Remember, demand for natural gas in Europe is falling near a decadal low, while a peak in LNG prices is also on the horizon. So that's another important factor to look out for, Vinny. But which are the other events that you're looking at?
Absolutely important in terms of oil and gas also prices to watch out for. But let's look at the important events that we're watching out for today. Not much of an excitement expected, especially in data point of view from the domestic front, only forex reserve numbers will be coming out. Let's keep an eye out on that. Globally also, post-market hours, we're not keeping an close eye on anything today. Corporate actions, so during the day, let's keep an eye out on Atul's buyback will be closing today. That's an important corporate action to watch out for. If you want to be eligible for dividend of shares of Aegis Logistics, BLS International, Bharat Forge, Bosch, then we have Kirloskar Oils, Analco. Then today is the last day. There are some other companies as well, but today is the last day to be applicable to buy the shares, to be applicable for the dividend as well. Union Bank, that is in focus today because QIP issue price will be unveiled today. Keeping an eye out on that, as well as for buyback of shares. If there's anyone and you want to be eligible for that, if you're holding Kaveri Seeds and Zydus Life, then those are the ones to watch out for. On the IPO front, Jupiter Hotels IPO, that is the last day to subscribe for this as well. So keep an eye out on that. Lock-in period opens for Ireda, so that's one to watch out for. Ireda has seen a very strong move post its listing, and that's going to be interesting to see today how the move shapes up as well. In other events and key factors to watch out for today, Byju's investors are to hold an EGM on Feb 23rd. We had a lot more updates coming in last evening as well. We'll take you all through that later, but Byju's is something that you're keeping an eye out on in terms of updates that are coming in from that front as well. PVR Inox, they're going to be reducing the ticket price today, and that's I think because of some movie day that is there as well. PM is to inaugurate 12,000 crore projects in Varanasi. He'll be visiting Varanasi, so keep an eye out on what the PM is doing as well. And in the evening, post-market hours, in the US market, we'll have the Fed Speaker Waller, who will be speaking. So any important commentary that comes in on that front. Yesterday, we did see some of the FOMC minutes meetings, the highlights coming in on that front. But what is he going to be talking about? Let's keep an eye out on that.
Absolutely, and let's kickstart our coverage of the global news flow this morning with key commentary coming in from select Federal Reserve officials. More resilient demand could dent disinflationary process, and that's the word coming in from Vice Chair Philip Jefferson, a cautiously optimistic towards the progress, says they need to remain nimble so as to avert major shocks. Meanwhile, Fed Reserve Governor Lisa Cook said that with inflation easing and a normalizing labor market, the risks have become two-sided. But it's not yet time to reduce interest rates.
Okay, let's move on from the Fed then to the ECB, because staying with those central bank actions that have been happening a lot. Now, the European Central Bank has published its January policy meet takeaways. Officials largely showcasing and showing confidence that the monetary policy is taking shape. Meanwhile, the central bank may lower inflation projections for the year. However, the termed the disinflationary process fragile, like the Federal Reserve, the ECB too spotting a broad consensus over the view that it's premature to discuss rate cuts currently.
Moving on then, attacks on merchant vessels in the Red Sea have delayed cargo and sent shipping costs higher, but soft demand and ample ship availability are muting the impact on inflation, according to analysts from Moody's Investor Service. The diversions are not expected to have a huge impact on inflation because they're not driven by demand.
Okay, and like I was talking about Nvidia, that is a stock that we're keeping an eye out on as well. In the US market, what a performance it saw, a stellar show in the fiscal fourth quarter of the company, and the rally on the chip giant Nvidia added a whopping $277 billion in market value, the largest single-day gain in the history. The shares soared to a steep 16% up move, lifting the market capitalization to $1.98 trillion after its December quarter numbers.
And social media giant Reddit has inked a deal with search engine giant Google, making its content available for training search engine AI models. The contract with Alphabet-owned Google is reportedly worth about $60 million per year. Meanwhile, Reddit is all set for its stock market debut, has filed its papers with the SEC for its IPO. The said debut, expected in March, will be the first major tech initial public offering of the year. It's the first social media IPO since Pinterest went public in 2019.
And yesterday was a big day in India's white revolution as Amul completed 50 years. Anand Milk Unions Limited, famously known as Amul, is the 8th largest dairy company in the world and played a pivotal role in making India the world's largest milk production. In fact, did you know that Amul manages around 30 million litres of milk daily and had an annual turnover of 80,000 crores in 2023 and 2024? So PM Modi was also a part of yesterday's Golden Jubilee celebration where he praised Amul's role in India's growth. Let's go across and listen into what he had to say about this as well.
गुजरात कोऑपरेटिव मिल्क मार्केटिंग फेडरेशन की स्वर्ण जयंती पर आप सभी को बहुत बहुत शुभकामनाएं। भाइयों और बहनों, भारत की आजादी के बाद देश में बहुत से ब्रांड बने, लेकिन अमूल जैसा कोई नहीं। आज अमूल भारत के पशुपालकों के सामर्थ्य की पहचान बन चुका है। अमूल यानी विश्वास, अमूल यानी विकास। छोटे छोटे पशुपालकों की ये संस्था आज जिस बड़े पैमाने पर काम कर रही है, वही तो संगठन की शक्ति है, सहकार की शक्ति है।
All right, time for a quick break. When we come back, we'll take a look at how the Asian markets are faring this morning. Welcome back. Thank you so much for staying tuned in. Well, let's take a look at what is happening in the paint sector now. And in a move which is likely to shake up India's paints industry, Aditya Birla Group's Grasim Industries launched its first paint plant in Panipat, Haryana. The company is also planning to set up 2 more plants next month as it looks to become the second largest player in paints in India. Speaking at the event, Kumar Mangalam Birla said that the foray into the paint business is a strategic expansion for the company. Listen in to what else he had to say.
The ambition is to be the number 2 brand in the Indian decorative paints market. And I think that is something that all of us, right from me, right down to the junior most person at Opus, is very determined to achieve. It's just not about determination, it's also about the fact that preparation, a lot of preparation has gone into this for the last 2.5 years. We're spending 10,000 crores, of which 7,000 is committed, 5,000 is spent. I think this will take us through to the next 3 years, 4 years. We don't need to spend more than that just now, because we're straight away coming in with such large capacity. But as and when we reach capacity utilization that's at a level where we need to invest more, I don't think funding is an issue at all. Markets decide prices, and prices find their own levels always. I think ours is a market share strategy. We've added that much of volume in terms of the production capacity, and I don't think that we're looking at pricing as a primary strategy.
Our innovative demand planning tool will seamlessly integrate customer needs from over 6,000 towns, aligning this extensive demand with our supply through a formidable network of 6 plants as also 150 depots. And by the end of the year, our plan is to distribute paints through channel partners across 6,000 towns. This means that our paint will be available in any and every town with a population of just 50,000. I believe our entry into the paints industry signifies a bold and unparalleled commitment to growth at a pace previously unimagined in this sector. We are driven by the vast opportunity presented as India's economy surges towards a $10 trillion milestone. Our vision is ambitious, and our initial goal is clear: to clock gross revenues of 10,000 crores and turn profitable not later than the 3rd year of full-scale operations.
And talking to ET now, Himanshu Kapania, the business head at Birla Opus, said that they are optimistic the paint business will turn profitable in 3 years. Let's listen in.
So Grasim in 2021 had announced 10,000 crore investment. You have been closely watching Grasim financials. Current net debt to EBITDA is at a 1.5 to 1.7 on overall basis. We've already spent 7,000 crores, and our overall investment commitment is 10,000 crores. We've also making commitments that within 3 years we should be able to reach not only 10,000 crores of revenue but also profitable operations.
Well, my colleague Sumit Chaturvedi was on the site to take a look at and also get a sense of what the new venture entails for the Birla Group. Let's take a look.
With the launch of this facility in Panipat in Haryana by Kumar Mangalam Birla, chairman of Aditya Birla Group, the company has entered into paint space. Well, paint space, it's worth 70,000 crore industry. Currently, it has other players, including Asian Paints and others also. But this time, Birla Group is coming in a big way, having synergies with its cement business and other businesses. Well, overall, the capacity is going to be over 1,300 million litres per annum. 3 plants, they have been inaugurated, and 3 more plants will come. So overall, 10,000 crore rupees is going to be invested over next 3 years, and company aims to be profitable in the next 3 years on banking on infrastructure boom of India, economy booming in India, and other factors as far as consumers are concerned. Pricing has not been announced yet, but company says pricing will be as per industry standards or maybe even better than that. So paint business is going to see, the market is going to see a shake-up of sorts with the entry of the Birla Group into that segment. But clearly it's a kind of a scale, it's a business in which many raw materials matter, but what matters most is petroleum. Company says it is not much worried about that because it has got its arrangements in place. So big entry by Aditya Birla Group into the paint segment by launching the first plant in Panipat. Here we are standing.
Thanks so much for that update that was there from Sumit yesterday at the Grasim event. And let's keep it with the paint sector then and keep Grasim in focus because Morgan Stanley came out with a note. They implied a 10% target share higher versus the bull case scenario. Overall, what they are highlighting is that they company's aim is to build the second largest network of paint dealers, focus on gaining market share and growing the top line. They expect it to gain be at the expense of other players of paint companies as well. So obviously some of the listed players will be losing some market share as well, and in terms of overall paint companies profitability cycle will be less predictable, and they expect greater focus coming in terms of market share also over profitability going forward as well, because obviously a large player coming in, everyone wants to maintain their market share as well with profitability. Now overall paint sector as a whole, CLSA has a view that the launches that are coming in with the scale and agility would actually be very disruptive for the sector. They have an underperformed rating on Asian Paints and a target price of 3,215 rupees per share for Asian Paints. CLSA is also saying that the key monitorable for them is going to be the pricing action that they're keeping an eye on in terms of changes by Asian Paints now and changes in the dealer incentive. That's going to be important, right? For the paint segment, the dealers are really, really important. The incentives you give to the dealers, that's on the basis of that they decide, right? The cashbacks, the offers they get. So those changes is something that could be possible because everyone will be wanting to keep the dealers. So let's keep an eye out on the paint sector. Just got much more exciting with the launch of Grasim Industries coming out with their paint segment.
Absolutely, Winnie. And now moving away from that big splash in the paints industry to sky-high connectivity then, Airtel announced in-flight roaming plans starting at just ₹195, allowing customers to stay connected during flights. The offerings include data, voice and SMS services with options like 250 MB data, 100 minutes of calls and 100 SMSs for just ₹195. Airtel partners with Aeromobile for in-flight connectivity across 19 airlines. My colleague Astha Chopra is joining in with more details. Astha, tell us more about this.
Well, there is a good news for the Airtel customers as Bharti Airtel introduced its first in-flight roaming packs. Yes, well, with this packs, customers can now connect with their loved ones even during in-flight. With these packages, customers can now access the high-speed internet packages, make outgoing calls and even send SMS to their loved ones while traveling in flights. Also, these packages are benefiting all the customers, whether it's postpaid or prepaid, and it comes with 3 packages. Now, what are the packages? I'll introduce them to you. First package is worth rupees 195, which includes 250 MB of data, 100 outgoing calls and 100 messages. The next package is the pack 2 is 295, which includes the 500 MB of data, 100 calls and 100 SMSs. The third pack is consisting of rupees 595, which consists of 1 GB data, 100 messages and 100 minutes of outgoing call. As well, all three flight packages are for the postpaid customers and the prepaid customers, and the validity of these packs are 20, especially the international roaming packages, which are at 2,997 for the prepaid and 3,900 for the postpaid packages, will be automatically entitled to these in-flight roaming packages, and they do not have to pay any additional costs to take this in-flight roaming packages. So, well, this is a very good news for the Airtel consumers, as this is the first in-flight roaming packages in which customers can enjoy the services, all services, internet calls and SMS while being in flight.
Thank you so much for that, Astha. But let's move on. And certain shareholders of Byju's are expected to hold an EGM today, and the shareholders, including General Atlantic and Peak 15, were hoping to remove Byju's as the CEO over alleged mismanagement of funds. However, Karnataka High Court ruled that the decision at the EGM will not be effective until the next hearing. So, does that what should one make of today's EGM? Let's go close to Anurag Joshi to get in more details of what should one be expecting from these Byju's EGM that will be happening. Anurag?
Some of EdTech firm Byju's key investors are planning to hold a shareholder meeting on Friday. The investors that have convened the meeting include General Atlantic, Peak 15 and Chan Zuckerberg Initiative, and the meeting has been called to seek the removal of Baiju Ravindran as the CEO of the company. Byju's promoters will not attend this shareholder convened meeting, and this meeting follows Karnataka High Court order which said that the decision at the EGM which will not be effective until the next hearing, which is on March 13th. Now, the investors have charged Baiju Ravindran of mismanaging the finances of the EdTech giant and also erosion of the shareholder value. Byju's, which commanded a peak valuation of about $22 billion, had recently raised a rights issue at a post-money valuation of just over $200 million. The investors are also demanding the removal of Baiju Ravindran's wife, Divya Gokulnath, and his brother Riju Ravindran as directors of Byju's.
All right, with that, we're timed out on this segment, but we'll see you with more stock-specific news on the other side.
Welcome back, and you're watching Market Cafe on ET Now. Let's talk about some of the important stocks that we should keep on our radar today. And Honasa Consumers is going to be one of them, because Citi has come out with a brokerage note. Actually, they've initiated coverage on Honasa Consumers, target price of 550 rupees per share. Let's not forget, Honasa Consumers is one of the leading digital-first beauty and personal care company in India. And when you look at it in terms of the market share that Honasa Consumers has, do not forget that it started in 2016, and since then, Mamaearth was the first flagship brand that they launched in 2016. And now, as of now, they've scaled up to 5% market share in the domestic online business and personal care category as well. So, surely moving up fast towards the leadership as well. Now, obviously, when you look at it, what is leading to this improvement, and Citi is also highlighting that Honasa is strengthening their market position through innovation, growth acceleration via expanding its distribution reach, as well as entering into new subcategories that they're focusing on as well, gradual improvement in margin expansion, as well as in terms of, these are going to be some of the key positives that one are keeping an eye out on as well. Financial performance is scaling up and improving as well. What Citi is highlighting is that they are estimating the consolidated revenue to see a post 25% growth, CAGR growth in the next 2 years as well, driven by obviously Mamaearth and other brands as well, where they're expecting strong growth of around 46% CAGR growth for other brands as well. So strong performance is what they're envisaging for Honasa Consumers going forward as well. They expect this outperformance specifically to continue, given with initiatives as well as the mastage positioning, which is improving for the company as well. So yes, that's why initiating coverage with a buy rating, target price of 550 rupees per share is what they are highlighting for Honasa consumers.
Absolutely. And then moving away from that, let's also take a look at how the futures and options roundup is shaping up. Ansh is joining in with that highlight.
Right, so let's start with Nifty first. So in the previous session, in the second half, Nifty recovered smartly over 300 points to touch record high for fourth consecutive session. However, if you see in the chart, Nifty seems to be hovering around that 22,120 for fourth consecutive session, indicating that Nifty seems to have got into a consolidation phase. Whereas on option front, we are seeing a strong put writing happening at around 22,000 psychological mark, indicating good support around that level. Now, if we shift our focus to Nifty Bank, Nifty Bank also gave a down move in the previous session, but then it recovered smartly from day's low, but it couldn't close in green. However, it managed to close above that 50 DMA of 46,800 mark. So this seems to be a good support, whereas on option front, if you see, we are seeing strong put writing happening at around 46,500 mark. So on option front, we are seeing good support at 46,500. On charts, we are seeing good support at 46,800. So this 300 point could be a good buying pressure zone for Nifty Bank if we see any down move today. Let's shift our focus to FIIs, and in FIIs in the previous session they added around 3,600 longs, but we saw very strong short covering of 9,000 contract, due to which the total FII long position has gone up by 12,700 contract, and in percentage terms, if you'll see FII longs, then it has gone up from 42% to 44.3%. So this is the total long has come up to around 26 session high. So FII continues to be very positive in index futures.
So total longs at 26 session high, but which are the stocks that you're keeping on your radar on account of news flow?
Right, so All India will be the first stock in focus for today's trading session, as company has signed an MOU with FACT to explore opportunities in the domain of green hydrogen, that's including green ammonia, green methanol and other derivatives. Apart from this, Jana Small Finance Bank will also be in focus, as they have come up with the numbers, and the company has reported interest income at 1,038 crore, which is up by 28.4%, whereas the net profit has also gone up by 12.8%, so good positivity seeing in this stock. Whereas if we talk about Godrej Property, then the company emerges as the highest bidder for 2 adjacent plots in Navi Mumbai. Delhi Bilcon will also be in focus, as their wholly owned subsidiary has executed a concession. Agri Ramkrishna Forging will be in focus, as a company's board has approved investment of around 90 crore to set up a manufacturing facility in Mexico. So keep an eye on the stocks.
Absolutely. We'll keep an eye on all of those counters in today's trading session, Ansh, but there's a lot of stocks that are in focus on account of brokerage notes as well. Ashesha is joining in with that list. Ashesha?
Well, yes, let's first start off with the counter that has been in focus for the last 2 trading sessions on the back of its results, ABB. Axis Capital has in fact downgraded ABB now after the rally that we have seen over the last 2 days. They've downgraded the stock to reduce. They say 1-year forward price to earnings at 77 times is higher than historic averages of 70 times. They also say that the gross margins have now peaked, and they expect gross margins to bottom out in the 4th quarter of this year. They expect earnings growth to mellow down in the coming quarter. So negative report coming in, they've downgraded the stock to reduce. Keep an eye out on ABB after the rally that we have seen in the last 2 trading sessions. Citi meanwhile has come out with its note on Concor, where they have increased the target price to 1224 from their earlier target of 1063. They've also increased their target multiple, EV to EBITDA multiple, to 28 times from their earlier estimate of 25 times. They've raised their EPS estimates anywhere between 5 to 6%. So for now, their revised target price stands at 1224 rupees per share. Prestige Estates will also be in focus on the back of a Citi note, where they are increasing target price to 1477 from their earlier target price of 1281. Lastly, Phoenix Mills, again on the back of a Citi note, where they've raised their target price from 2,860 to 3,352. They've raised EPS estimates for FY25 and 26 by 8 and 9% respectively, and they say that this continues to be their top pick in the sector. So on the back of brokerage notes, all these 4 counters will be in focus today.
Thanks, Ashesha. So we'll keep an eye on all of those 4 counters, but the recently listed Jana Small Finance Bank will also be in focus on the back of earnings. A largely inline performance coupled with significant improvement in asset quality. Let's go across to my colleague Gaurav for a detailed picture on this. Gaurav, give us the earnings fine print.
Yes. So let's talk about Jana Small Finance Bank, and the bank reported first time after the IPO the numbers for Q3 FY24, and if you look at the numbers, they were actually in line with what the street was expecting. So if we talk about net interest income, it was up almost by 33% on a YY basis. PPOP was up almost by 3.6%, and this was because employee cost increased a little higher than what the street was expecting. But if we talk about PAT, it was up 12.5, more than 12.5%. Talking about the asset quality also, the gross NPAs improved by 25 bips on a quarter-on-quarter basis, and net NPAs also improved by 16 basis points on a quarter-on-quarter basis, which was actually positive for the bank. Let's also look at the asset quality. Let's also look at the net interest margins. So net interest margins improved to 7.9% in 9-month FY24 versus what it was at 7.3% a year ago. And lastly, if we talk about the return ratios, ROAs were at 1.7%, while ROE was standing at 20.2%, which was actually healthy for the bank. And loan AUM also grew almost by 28.4%, and this was led by mainly affordable housing segment, two-wheeler segment, micro LAP segment, and unsecured loan book, which was actually the bank was targeting unsecured loan to take a little lower share. It grew only by 14.7% versus the actual loan book growth of 28.4%. So this was also in line with what the bank's strategy was to increase the secured loan book's share in the book. So all in all, bank reported healthy set of numbers. If we also talk about the relative valuation, the price to book value, now implied price to book value stands somewhere at 1.7 times, which is still lower than the small finance bank and its peers, and that is why let's definitely keep an eye on what happens on the share price of Jana Small Finance Bank.
Absolutely. Thanks, Gaurav, for that update. But we also have a jam-packed lineup for you on the market. At 9:40, we'll be in conversation with Anuj Khandelwal, business head at Grey Cement, JK Cement, to talk about the industry outlook for the cement sector. At 9:50, we'd also be in conversation with Naresh Jalan, MD at Ramakrishna Forgings, to talk about their order win pipeline and how that's shaping up. And at 10 a.m., we'd also be in conversation with TV Chaudhary, the managing director at Premier Explosive, to talk about their growth roadmap and how they're seeing it shape up. But with that, we're all out of time on this edition of Market Cafe on ET Now. Thank you so much for watching. The market takes all of the action forward.